bridge that needs to be built can actually be built so that we can do what we need to do as a state party.
Absolutely. I'm glad to see Kay in the room today. Hi, Kay. If you don't know her, you need to know Kay. She's the head of the Chair Association. I learned a lot more, and I think we learn a lot more from each other. So there is a Tuesday evening call every Tuesday, and I'm going to tell you this in case it's going to laugh. My very first time on a chair call that I had with as the chair, I got on and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to get on and learn all this stuff. And there was a lot of the world chairs talking about how to put in a sign into the side of the road for the elections. And it hit me at that time, and I realized how big our state is, because at Travis County, obviously our infrastructure, our finances, things like that are more than some of the rural areas. And so I was like, don't they just hire a sign guy? I don't understand. No, I know, Kay. I learned a lot from you. I was like, they don't just hire a sign guy? I don't understand what this question is. Like, we've got our sign guy, everybody knows the sign guy. But no, not in certain areas. Also in Travis, when we put up our signs, usually people don't touch it. And if they do in certain parts, probably closer to Carl's area of Travis, it becomes a whole big thing. Like, how dare they touch our signs, and yes, it's very different. I truly think we can learn from each other, and I've been thinking about this a lot, especially after this last election. And the reason I think that we have a lot to learn from each other, there's things that Travis does really well infrastructure-wise. We have a super precinct model that we do, where we have our precinct chairs, but then there's a super precinct chair who's above that, who, as the chair, we talk to the super precinct chairs, and then they kind of create the block captains and everything underneath that. And I know that as Kay and the state party are doing the work to get the chairs, creating that block captain system, and those things that we do as Travis County as a model are really important. But I also believe that Travis County can learn from our rural chairs, because I will tell you, after this last election, us being so blue for so long, what I worry about is some of us in these blue counties, these blue areas, lazy is not the right word, but I think we've taken for granted so much that we're blue and that we don't have to work hard on our elections. And a lot of times in Travis County, we don't even have primary opponents. A lot of our electeds just come in unopposed, and so a lot of the areas aren't worked the way they need to, and we really do need to work the blue areas to also win statewide elections. And the reason I mention the rural chairs is because I've learned from those chair calls every Tuesday is that, man, those county chairs are grassroots. They work their butts off, and if they have to go out and put a big sign up, like, they are doing it with a hammer and whatever else it takes. I didn't know so much on that call, sorry, Kate. But
postal diggers.
that, I was so confused. I was trying to make it look like I wasn't completely confused by that conversation. But I do think we have to learn, as chairs of urban counties, we need to learn from the rural chairs, because like I said, they're really on the ground, and we need to learn. We need to have that heart too, to realize that yes, we're blue, but like I said, as we saw from the last election, it's real easy to lose those blue votes, or to swing a little bit red, and we can't take that for granted. So I think there's a lot to learn from each other. I think those chair calls are important. I also have a big push, and this is why I'm so excited that we have 4 chair candidates for this election, for me stepping down. When I became chair, I'm not gonna lie, I had a lot of people say, why would you do that? That's a thankless job. And I'm trying to change the narrative of that in a really big way. Being a county chair is an honor. It is one of the best things that I've had the honor to do, and I get to wake up and uplift the Democrats in my county, and I really love that. And I think that we as county chairs, and we as a party, need to keep saying that as precinct chairs, as county chairs. It is one of the best things that we get to do, in my opinion, for democracy. Whether urban or rural, but we are all working together, and we get to uplift Democrats, who are some of the best people on the planet. So.
All right.
Pooja, I'd like to follow up on something that you said, and just thinking about the calls that you mentioned. And Kay, how are you doing? Good to see you. Were there any assumptions that you felt like rural chairs were making about urban chairs? Maybe not specifically on that call, but as a whole, that after engaging with those chairs, you were kind of able to put those assumptions to the side?
Absolutely. So I think there's assumptions made on both sides. I am not gonna lie, a lot of my ideas about rural Texas come from movies and TV shows. I'm so sorry, guys. But I think there is an assumption of what we see, and I think there's also an assumption that rural chairs have that I hope they don't have about us, is that we're stuck up. We believe that we should suck up all the money. We believe that we should suck up all the attention, and that you can only win statewide races through the urban areas, and that nobody should focus on rural. And I don't personally believe that, and I know that through more conversations that we've been having, it's all important.
Ramon, you mentioned how you've been able to bring $13 million to Presidio County, being an advocate in the county. Now, yes. Now, the majority of advocacy organizations in Texas are based in urban areas and are filled with folks that live in urban areas. How have you been able to make rural a priority for folks to be able to get millions of dollars to your county?
Yeah, so basically, there's these large organizations that are more blue or urban cities, but the information eventually trickles down. And something about Presidio County and my area is that everyone is always very connected. There's a lot of sense of community, but we have a lot of people that we don't have jobs, we don't have the infrastructure that we need. It's a desert out there. And a lot of these people go to the urban cities, go to the larger, more, that have major infrastructure and bring back knowledge and work over there to sustain the family they have out there in rural Texas. That's basically what we're looking at out there. But that sense of community also brings a lot of unity. I'll even talk about a little bit of some ideas with Presidio County. Presidio County has remained blue for years and years and years, and did not have that red effect happen this last election season, which is really interesting. But what has happened out there, rural as it is, we don't have a lot of those resources. So we've always tried to prioritize that, not just when it comes to election season, we're out there, we're block walking, etc., but not just when it's election season, go out and ask for people's vote. I've wanted to change that narrative that county parties should probably start doing something and giving back to the community, because that people want to see results, tangible projects, tangible results, just like this accomplishment. And that's actually another strategy. This such accomplishment of $13 million, 12.7 to be exact, was an accomplishment under this last administration. So what did we do? We start putting it out there. We start putting out to the surrounding counties as well that there are things that are being done. So that really just helps with all of that. And then again, we kind of piggyback with all those other organizations for any resources at all that trickle down. So.
During the last election cycle, when I was a candidate in the Democratic primary for the Senate, we traveled to almost over 100 counties across the state. And one thing that I found was interesting was folks even in rural parts of the state would tell me, Thierry, why are you coming here? Focus your time solely on urban areas. And I told them, I'm sorry, I can't do that. But that brought up the point to me of the question, how should statewide candidates campaign? Should they campaign only in the top 20 to 30 most populous counties? Or should they have a 254 county strategy? And so Ramon, I want to start with you and I want to come all the way down of what's your perspective on that and why?
Well, that's a really good point. So I think that when we think of urban and rural, I think the urban areas, yes, they push us over the edge, but they provide the numbers. And I think that the rural counties provide the margins. We get to see, again, that community, that connection, etc. And I think, looking at my studies and looking back at different strategies that were done way before. For example, in 2008, President Obama, he focused, of course, in the blue areas, but he also went out to those rural and really, really red counties because, you know, he wanted to see how many votes he can get out of there. And that was a really good strategy, you know, regardless of the actual, you know, margin in that county. But I think that it really, really does help. You know, that's a good strategy. But I think that rural communities want to hear from people. A lot of the times, you know, if we have candidates out there, that's so, you know, people appreciate it. They're grateful for it. You know, out there in Presidio County, 76% Hispanic, but even in the surrounding counties, you know, they say, estamos bien agradecidos, that we're so grateful for them to even just come out there and hear us, listen to us. And people go out and vote. We just blocked walk, you know, this last election cycle, and a lot of people were like, I'm not gonna go vote because these candidates haven't even come out here and seen us. You know, so that's another big point. If it can be focused from the rural, you know, getting there, you know, listening from them, etc., then bring it back to the urban counties, that can help a lot, because once they start, as I have seen in the urban counties, is that they'll, you know, start forgetting about the rural. You know, they'll start looking at the numbers. So I think working from there to the top is the best course of action.
Awesome. Yes.
Carl.
Well, I'll approach this from the standpoint of my job, if you will, my responsibility as a field coordinator for the TDP Rural Caucus. And that is, we work with county chairs and precinct chairs and all the volunteers and activists in the rural counties to help them do a number of things. Raise money, fundraising, recruit precinct chairs, recruit members of the party, help with voter registration, and we work hand in hand with Kay Parr over here with Campusa County Chair Association, I think president. So we try to share responsibilities without running over each other and duplicating our work. But I think from the standpoint, from the rural standpoint, and Ramon was talking about this, from the standpoint of, let's talk about fundraising first of all. Obviously, the urban counties have more, for the most part, many more resources to look at, to find money for fundraising and a source of fundraising in the urban areas. In the rural areas, not so much. But what we need to do, and Kendall Scudder was talking about this at the outset, we have to look upon this to share this burden equally with all of us together. If you're going to volunteer, you can do two things in the rural counties that are helpful to the county chairs and to the county organizations. Donate your time or donate your money. So let's talk about money. What I recommend doing now, after going through 4 cycles, is that we need to sit back and say, this is it. We have our backs to the wall. Who is it that said that now's the time for all good men and women to come to the aid of their country? Who was it that said that? It's one of our forefathers. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is today. So sit back now. Every single member of the Democratic Party and independents and even some rare friendly Republicans, we need to save our country and we need to save our own lives. So look into your family budget. Pay your electricity bill. Pay your gas for your car. Put food on the table. Take care of your family. Do all those things we all have to do. But try to come up with a number that you can utilize to donate to candidates and to your county chair, your county organization, and to judicial positions and state representatives and state senators. What is that number? Can I come up with $20 a month? Maybe it's only $5 a month. Maybe it's $50 a month. Take that number and commit to it. And go to Act Blue and donate $5, $10 a month, whatever you can afford, to your favorite local candidate, first of all, your county organization, and any other judicial position that's important to you. Take that number and stick to it. Don't take any money off the dinner table. Because candidates, they will all tell you, it's great that you donated $20 to my candidate, to my candidacy. It's great for my campaign. But what they really need is monthly donations. Something they can budget on, correct? Something they can count on. And it does them enormous empowerment and satisfaction to earn, to get the respect that they need. And when they see that money come into their campaign account on a monthly basis, and it's there, and it's very easy to do. Once you go on ActBlue or whatever website you want to go to, put that credit card number in there, put that bank account number in there, and forget about it. It's over, done. You don't have to lift another finger if that's all you can do. If you don't have as much time to help in your volunteer work on the county and for the candidate, at least do something, please, to help those folks out. The Republicans can get on the phone and in 5 minutes can raise $100,000 or more. They've got those connections. I know that when I was in business. Didn't like it, but that was my business. I know they have that kind of don't for the most part.